Hello, and welcome to your weekly tarot forecast for the week of September 8th through the 14th. I'm Michelle Shea Walker, and I'm here to give you your glass half full perspective on the week ahead. And if you're a paid subscriber on Substack, or if you tipped your reader on Venmo or PayPal this week, it's a good time to stick around until the end of the video to find out if you won the personalized reading drawing. So I'm going to honor the fact that I'm a lower energy today. I'm recording this on Sunday, the day of the lunar eclipse, which is in Pisces, my actual moon. And I definitely am feeling that feeling of being eclipsed in my energy right now. So if you have some prominent Pisces placements, especially if you have a Pisces moon, just honor the fact that if you are lower energy, if you're feeling called to turn within, that is part of this process. It's part of this sort of rebirth of eclipse season. It could also be happening if you have some prominent Virgo placements, because that's the opposite end of the spectrum. We're going to get to that eclipse later on in the month. But it's definitely a good time to retreat, almost like a hermit mode type energy, and restore your energy. So I've got my cup of tea here. Had a nice cozy day yesterday and made some banana bread. So I've got that waiting for me as a reward once I'm done recording. But I'm just going to preface this by saying that this will be a slow and steady reading. And if you're here for the upbeat cheerleader energy that I sometimes bring, it'll be back, but we all have ebbs and flows. So we are going to dive into this week with the knowledge that this eclipse is going to be affecting all of us, regardless if you have Pisces or Virgo in your prominent areas of your chart. It's eclipse season. And that usually means that things are coming to the surface. We're processing a lot of the energy, and it can be kind of exhausting sometimes. So if you need to take the time to slow down and unplug and read a book or take a nap, that's really going to be part of this process as the next several weeks unfold, especially as we're in what's called the eclipse portal between last Sunday, today in my world. But as you're watching this, yesterday's Pisces eclipse, and then the Virgo new moon eclipse on the 21st. Those couple weeks are really going to be the bulk of the energy that we're dealing with. But then the eclipse season always kind of comes back around 6-month cycles when we get to the eclipse season in the spring. So this is going to be a time for self-care. If you think that you want sort of an eclipse season, eclipse portal resource, especially if you're a paid subscriber, drop a comment or a like below, because that's something that's kind of toying in my brain, like giving you a little list of links and resources or meditations or articles to read or just things to think over. And that'll be one of the bonuses for the paid subscribers. So it might be a good week to join if I do get a lot of likes or comments below requesting that. Yeah, just honor your energy and its fluctuations as we're in this portal in the next couple weeks. I'm going to take a sip of tea because I need a little bit of caffeine. Okay, so let's dive into the week ahead. We've got Monday, September 8th. Quieter astrology, we do have the moon changing signs. The moon is moving into Aries in the afternoon on Monday. So this Pisces eclipse moon energy is going to get a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a breakup. It's still going to be during the eclipse portal between the full and new moon eclipse this month, but Aries energy should be kind of a little bit of a refresh. So if I were recording this on Monday afternoon, might have a little more energy. However, our card of the day is indicating that we may want to be careful how we utilize that Aries moon energy, because it's the Fool card reversed. And the Fool card can actually often relate to that sort of Aries beginning of the zodiac energy, because I like to say Aries energy is very much jump into the pool and check for water later. And that's kind of what this reverse card is warning us against as the moon moves into Aries. We want to make sure that we're honoring sort of an energizing impulse to do something, but also checking to make sure that there's water in the pool before we dive in, especially if we're going to dive in head first, which is usually what Aries energy does. So there's a feeling of not utilizing the energy. Okay. There's a feeling of my brain keep up with me. There's a feeling of still utilizing the energy of sort of Aries, creating a little more momentum, a little more impulsiveness, a little more action-based energy, but still making sure that we've got all the checks and balances in place. So this is definitely an energy of like, especially because the moon tends to deal with our emotional state and being more impulsive in regards to our emotions. This is definitely a day to make sure that you're not committing to impulsive behaviors out of an attempt to self-soothe, something that you could heal more thoroughly with other longer term actions. So this is like, don't go out and spend a bunch of money that you don't have and put a bunch of money on your credit card just because you feel like that shopping is going to make you feel better, because in the long run that new stuff is going to get old and you're still going to have to deal with whatever it is that's bringing forward this feeling of being stuck. So there's this feeling of wanting to move into a new chapter and being mindful of the fact that the Aries moon energy might be trying to get us there through artificial means, through things that aren't going to actually last, through addictions, through impulsive behaviors, through spending time with people that maybe we don't need to spend time with, or going back to exes that we don't need to go back to, or whatever. There's this feeling of wanting that quick results of pacification of this discomfort of being stuck, instead of trying to make the longer term plans to get ourselves out of feeling stuck so that we feel good in the long term rather than just in the moment. So that's what the Fool reversed is kind of giving us a little warning about. So I'm not saying don't take action towards the things that are going to make you feel better, but kind of evaluate for yourself, like, is this something that's going to make me feel better for like an afternoon? Or is it something that's going to make me feel better long term? So are you going out and buying a bunch of cheap stuff that's going to fall apart tomorrow that you don't actually care for, but the act of buying it makes you feel good in the moment? Or are you going to go out and invest in, things that last long term? Maybe it's new things for your pantry that are going to nourish your body so that you feel good in the long term and you get out that sluggish state. Maybe it is classes or investing in yourself. It's like an investment is the term that wants to come up. So like, are you making an investment? Are you spending frivolously? And this may not be about spending. It may be how you're spending your energy, but make sure that it's contributing to a long-term goal of feeling satisfied rather than a short-term satiation. Moving into Tuesday, we have in the late evening hours Venus square Lilith, but that's probably not going to affect the bulk of the day. I will speak to it just briefly. Venus is the planet of beauty and love, and sort of the more we've had energies like this a lot. Venus and Lilith have come up in our previous forecast going head to head. So Venus is kind of more the palatable feminine energy according to society, and Lilith is the less palatable energy of the feminine according to society. And there's nothing wrong with either one of the sides of this coin, but when the planets are square, they're kind of feeling like they're fighting one another. So you've got that sort of like inner good girl, regardless of your gender, and inner bad girl, regardless of your gender, the angel and the devil on your shoulder, if you will, telling you that everyone wants you to behave X, Y, and Z way, but your wild side wants to go do these things. And there's a time and a place for both of these energies. So I'm not going to tell you that one is better than the other. Sometimes we do need to lean more towards the palatable Venus energy as opposed to the Lilith energy, but we don't disregard either one at any point in time. It's recognizing that both of these, the wolf and the dog, exist within all of us at the same time. And we want to honor both sides of ourselves and utilize them to our best abilities given the current situation. So sometimes you need to bring the dog forward to be able to bring the wolf forward when the timing is more right. And vice versa. Sometimes you need to let the wolf front so that the dog can feel safe to move forward. The card of the day is very interesting given that we just started the week off with the Fool card reverse, because now we have the World card reverse. So we're going from either end of the major arcana spectrum. If you don't know anything about tarot, the major arcana, which are all the cards that we're familiar with, the Lovers, the Fool, the World, the Chariot, the ones that we think of when we think of tarot that don't have any numbers or suits in them. So it's not the King, Queen, Page, Knight, and it's not a number, it's these cards. They are a journey of going from the Fool, the beginning of the journey, to the end of the journey, the World. And so it's a full cycle movement that we're going just from Monday to Tuesday. So like, I think this eclipse energy is working very quickly on us, but because they're both reversed, one, it's a more internal journey, and two, it might show up in ways that are somewhat artificial. Like I spoke to with the Fool on Monday, we want to make sure that we're investing in long-term situations that are going to get us stuck and make us feel good. And then in regards to Tuesday's reversed world, there is a chapter that's closing out, but it almost feels like we want to be warned against the closing out in an unhealthy way, or in an artificial way. This feels almost like sort of a manipulation energy. I'm going to use the example that's coming forward. It probably isn't going to resonate for everyone listening, but it almost feels like a situation where like a relationship is making you angry. So you cut ties with that relationship, or you even tell that person, oh, I'm never speaking to you again. But internally, there's this feeling of like that's trying to manipulate them emotionally to come pursue you. It's that unhealthy dynamic of not saying exactly what you mean and creating an artificial feeling of closure or disconnect, when in actuality, you're probably more connected to that person because you're waiting for them to pursue you. So apply that to a relationship, a job, whatever it is that's coming up for you that you feel like you're kind of on this arc of starting a new chapter while you're still closing out another chapter, and try to be healthy and mature about anything that you're trying to close out. And don't say you want to close out a chapter that you actually are not ready to close out. And try to don't hold on to something that you really are ready to close. Yeah, it's just, I am feeling very black and white about this. It's like, you're either done or you're not. And like, don't say one thing and mean another. And maybe that's a little bit of my on the spectrum autistic thinking happening, but I'm just like, just say what you mean. And if you don't want to be in a situation, don't be in the situation, and really close the door and move forward. And if you do want to be in a situation, don't try to manipulate someone into pursuing you, or something into pursuing you, by pretending that you're not. This is the opposite of playing hard to get energy that we're trying to get at here. It's very emotionally mature, very straightforward. Say what you mean what you say, and be really in alignment with how you actually feel in regards to wanting to end a certain situation. I do feel like as I read into the energy, I'm going to try and challenge myself, side note, to not rely quite as much on just interpreting the cards for you, because I do get a lot of intuitive readings, and it's more on the one-on-one readings that I do that. The cards are just a crutch. And the same for you. If you're a reader and you play with cards, they are just a crutch, a tool for you to tap into the messages that you already have flowing through you. So rather than explaining the card verbatim, I'm going to try and let the energy flow. And right now I'm getting this energy flowing forward that it's like there are a few people watching that are actually ready to move on from a situation, but because they keep playing this game of waiting for someone to pursue, and it comes from a place of self-worth, actually. Let's go on that tangent. If you are trying to be emotionally manipulative, and again, of whatever form it looks like, if you're trying to manipulate a situation by pretending to close the door on something that you're not actually ready to close the door on, that's coming from a place of self-worth. That's coming from, or a lack of self-worth. It's coming from a place of like wanting someone to enforce the idea that you are worth it. And I see this a lot in sort of what's portrayed as a very healthy, confidence-driven dating tactic in our modern society, in that it's like, oh, well, if I'm worth it, if he wanted to, he would, is like that statement of like having someone show up for you to re-emphasize that they think you're worthy. And when you actually honor your self-worth, you're not trying to get anyone to show up for you. They either do or they don't, and that's your answer. And you already know that you're worth it. So when you're trying to manipulate a situation, be it a relationship, a job, or whatever, by trying to test someone to see if they will pursue you if you try to run away, that's you at some core wounded level feeling like you need someone to show you that you're worth it. And if you know you're worth it, something's trying to tell us to listen to this message because I forgot to silence my phone. If you know that you're worth it, you're not going to be trying, you don't need to have someone show you and manipulate the situation so that someone pursues you and shows up for you. They either will or they won't. You're not trying to pull something out of someone. Does that I hope that makes sense. Again, excuse the cloudiness of this eclipse energy, but that's the energy I'm getting off of this, of making sure that we are owning our own worth rather than trying to pull proof from the outside world out of them to show that we are, to feel more worthy. Again, I hope that makes sense. I know it was a little muddled, but watch it a couple times. If it kind of resonated, and something will slip into place. That is Tuesday. Wednesday, we have the sun opposite the North Node. So again, just much like the squares are kind of, these two planets are not supporting one another. Sun opposite the North Node, they kind of are pulling us in two different directions. The sun is our sense of identity. North Node is a sense of mission or true north, or what we're moving towards in this life. So there is this element of redefining of self. And I think that that's very fitting coming from yesterday's message, or Tuesday's message, of wanting to make sure that you have an internal sense of worth, because that's ultimately going to give you that stronger sense of self. And that stronger sense of self ideally will eventually align with your true north. But it takes some work to get there, to get that tweaking to happen. The moon also moves into Taurus on Wednesday in the afternoon hours. And that is what I want to speak to when regards to our card, because the 9 of Pentacles feels very grounded. And it feels very much like my cozy banana bread making and my cup of tea. And that's kind of a moon in Taurus, like let's nourish ourselves. Let's slow down. Let's also be unabashed about putting ourselves first. I'm not saying that Taurus energy always does that, but Taurus energy does have a very strong, grounded sense of self. That's why, and I say this lovingly with so many Taurus in my life, they have a tendency to be stubborn in their opinions and think that they're always right. And quite frankly, they probably kind of are, because they're a little psychic too. But Taurus energy does know how to put their needs first, and how to rest when they need to, and eat good food when they need to, and stand up for what they believe in when they need to. And the 9 of Pentacles is very much like, we've got this image of this person in a garden making a harvest, and it is harvesting. And the 9 of Pentacles is very much an energy of your security in life, your money, your abundance, your family life, your home, having a fruitful harvest. So there could be some sort of monetary abundance that comes in on, what day are we on? Wednesday. But it also could be like a metaphoric or energetic abundance of, again, creating a safe space for yourself, creating a place where you can, make the food that makes you feel nourished, and you can surround yourself with the energies that make you feel supported, and you can really ground yourself in this safe, cozy, whatever home space. It could be a literal home space, as in your home, or your energetic home space. And then the other thing that I'm getting from this is, it is a very self-focused energy in the best of ways, in the grounded, most self-care based ways, because oftentimes the 9 of Pentacles is seen as sort of the single person's abundance card, in that, like the 10 of Pentacles, we get into an image of like generations and family and everything coming together under the same roof. The 9 of Pentacles is really more like a self-made support system. be it your financial support system, but it's definitely an energy of like, you could have other people involved in this situation if you wanted to, but you don't have to, because you do know your own worth and you do know that you have the ability to create the abundance and the support system that you need for yourself. So that feels really fitting in the arc of our storyline so far this week. Moving into Thursday. At this point in the week, it was really interesting because I got several cards coming out from the personal reading last week. And I did shuffle the deck several times, and I always like let the cards fall out on their own. So I think Jane was the one that won this reading. So Jane, Thursday, Friday, Saturday might have something to do with your storyline a little more heavy, because they are your cards from last week, but they're different positions, different alignments. So let's go for the general collective. We have Thursday, Jupiter trine the North Node. So we have a very supportive energy in regards to our true North. So it feels like maybe Wednesday we're doing some, oh wait, no, sorry, lies. Looked at the wrong date. On Thursday, the 11th of September, we have the Sun sextile Lilith. So we have a very kiss of luck, again, conspiratory, supportive energy between our sense of self and our wild version of ourself. So that's a nice little turnover from Tuesday, when our good angel and devil, or wolf and domesticated dog, were kind of like in opposite and like in fighting one another. This is more like our sense of self, our core, and our wild version of ourselves are coming together and having a cup of tea and being like, how can we co-conspire to make some stuff happen in the world and in our lives? How can we let some more of this wild, inappropriate, quote unquote, energy come forward in a way that lets us shine? And maybe the world will still feel like it's a little inappropriate, but we'll get noticed in a way that will support our momentum forward. That's happening in the wee morning hours in Central Standard Time, 12:27 a.m. So it might be kind of arcing into Wednesday night if you are further west. And then we also have Mercury opposite the North Node. So we have, again, that opposition with the North Node, which we had on Wednesday with the Sun. And then Mercury is the planet of communication, kind of being at odds with our true north, our direction in life. So it might not be the best day to communicate your goals, your desires, your plan for the future. It's kind of that energy of like, hold it close to your heart until you know that it's strong enough to withstand any criticism. It feels like it's a good day to really allow yourself to let that Sun and Lilith energy coming together blossom new ideas and new ways to present yourself in the world that is more suited both the wolf and the dog within you, or the tiger and the domesticated cat within you, if you're more of a cat person like I am. But you're not necessarily going to present this plan to the outside world just yet. You're going to let it grow in strength before you put it out there. The card of the day on Thursday is the Two of Cups reversed. So I'm actually getting this energy of sort of that internal meeting of the Sun and Lilith coming together, your sense of self and this wild version of you that is still a part of you, but that the world has kind of told you to deny or hide away. This is almost an image, I feel like, of those two energies coming together and having a cup of tea, and we've actually got two cups in the energy, and being like, how can we make some really disruptive but shiny, sparkly, and authentic things happen in our lives and in the world? So let this be an internal meetup of those energies. And maybe even like I'm getting, for someone, it might be helpful to like, almost like it's a short story, like sit down and write out like what your Sun and Lilith version of you talk about in this meeting. Like, what does the wildest, craziest, most inappropriate version of you and your core self that you're presenting to the world, what do they talk about when they come together and they want to like work together in alignment with one another? Moving into Friday, we have the Sun sextile. We have a lot of things happening. We got lots of sextiles. We have the Sun sextile Jupiter. And again, sextiles, supportive cup of tea coming together, co-conspiring. Mercury sextile Lilith and Mercury sextile Jupiter. So a lot of the planets that were kind of in opposition to other planets early on in the week are coming together with planets this day to really feel supportive and in particular expansive, because we have Jupiter in the mix. So Mercury sextile, the sun sextile Jupiter is your sense of self expanding to be able to incorporate that wild Lilith side of yourself and all versions of yourself to present to the world in a package that feels appropriate. I'm getting imagery of like almost like a branding kit. So if you are someone that works in branding, very good day for that. But there's this energy of like the sun sextile Jupiter, and it happens in the early morning hours. So it's going to overact for the full day on Friday. It's like your PR team is coming together and putting together this really glossy website or packet that you're making sure all parts of yourself are present in, and you're handing it out to the world. And then the moon or Mercury sextile Lilith is that energy of communication and the wild version of yourself coming together and being supportive. And this is happening just like a little while after that. So like it's like 2:29 a.m. is the sun sextile Jupiter, and then 3:49 a.m. again Central Standard Time is Mercury sextile Lilith. So right off the bat, before you're probably even out of bed, these two energies are like, let's come together. We'll create a communication to put out into the world because we are ready to expand, and we're ready for the version of ourselves that is expanded to be seen by the world or by someone. So it might be that you're presenting a pitch, might be you're presenting an application or a new resume for a new job, but you're ready to be seen in a different light that would have scared you in the past, because it's going to be bringing forward these quote unquote wilder version of yourselves that society might have deemed inappropriate, but you're now healed and whole enough to handle the reactions to that version of yourself. And you're going to put it in this really glossy, like I'm just seeing like this really like very pristine, glossy, colorful presentation that makes the unpalatable seen more palatable. Again, it's a great PR spin on Friday. That's what we're feeling here. And then Mercury sextile Jupiter in the afternoon hours is just intensifying that. We're taking the planet of Mercury that met up with Lilith earlier to be like, how can we let the wild side come forward and be heard more? And then Mercury's meeting up with Jupiter and being like, cool, we're ready to expand. We're ready for some luck in this area. Let's get the message out into the world. So if you have a message to put out in the world, an email to send, a pitch to make, a presentation to give, an application to put out there, Friday is a really good day for that. And then Friday is the Chariot reversed for our card. So this is a self-driven energy turned inward. So this is very much sort of we are able to present stuff to the world on Friday, but the work behind it has been happening in the shadows. So kind of like what I talked about earlier in the week, that like maybe you're not ready to present something to the world because it's not going to receive it properly. Friday, we're getting into the opposite of that energy, where like you've been toiling away in secret on something and it's ready to be put forward, but it's because of all the effort that you put in internally and in private that you now can propel yourself forward into this next chapter. So I love that. Saturday, we're just intensifying that vibe because we have Mercury Cazimi. And that is when the planet Mercury lines up in conjunction with the sun. So the sun is going to intensify anything that comes into the same path as it. It's going to shine a light on it. It's going to make it bigger, bolder, more highlighted. And Mercury is the planet of communication. So if you aren't presenting something on Friday, definitely communicate something, present something, let yourself be heard on Saturday. So it does happen 5:31 a.m. Central Standard Time. So it could be affecting part of Friday as well. So Friday's still a really good day to get this stuff out there. But if you miss your chance, I know Saturday is not a work day for most people, but Saturday can still be a good day to utilize that energy and to let yourself be seen, heard, or presented to the world in this new, more complete, glossy, PR appropriate package. Underneath, or for the card of the day on Saturday, we have the 9 of Cups, and it's reversed. So this is an internal energy. And this honestly feels like it's just the last bit of like psychological, emotional healing that we're doing to be ready to put this version of ourselves out into the world. The Nine of Cups, when it's upright, is a wish fulfilled card. But it can be an energy of, it also is an energy of gratitude. Like, it's gratitude creates your wishes, like makes your wishes granted. But because it's reversed, it feels more internal. And so it's like we're just getting those last pieces of ourselves in order to feel worthy of our wishes being fulfilled. So at the very least on Saturday, probably as a result of whatever you present to the world on Friday or Saturday, this is going to come up anyway. But maybe carve out some time to do some self-reflection, notice any anxiety or fear that's coming up around whatever it is that you just presented or are about to present to the world. And I would say try to get it in Friday, Saturday. Like, don't delay. That's really good energy to work with this. So like, even if you don't feel ready, start before you're ready and present this new version of yourself to the world, put it out there, and then give yourself the time and the kindness to sit with what comes up and feel into your body where any tension or tightness or sort of anxiety feelings came up, and breathe into them. Do like a body-based somatic type work where you kind of close your eyes, you feel like where you feel the energy in your body, you breathe into it, you try to break it up. You can use visualizations, you can use picture light going on it, you can do whatever it is that you need to kind of feel this dissipate. But you want to honor what's coming up, because if you keep pushing it down, it's just going to boil up that much harder later. So every step of the way, as you become this new person in public that you've already been becoming for quite some time now, but you're being more public about it, you want to give yourself the time and space to sit with the fears as they happen, rather than pushing them to the side, because it's going to be that much easier to deal with them in the moment when it's just that one fear than if you keep pushing things down, and they come up all together in the future. So it's all good news. I don't want you to fear this energy, but I do want you to, again, we're in eclipse season. We got to honor our emotions. We got to slow down occasionally and integrate what's happening. And I think that there's going to be some really powerful opportunities to push yourself forward into a new alignment with your path and your purpose, especially Friday and Saturday. And that is inevitably going to bring up some fears, because we naturally fear change and transformation, even when it's going to be good for us. So sit with what comes up so that you can deal with it now and you can be ready to move into this new chapter. Sunday. Quieter astrology, we do have the moon moving into Cancer in the evening hours, so that can be a little more emotional, a little more watery. Moon was in Gemini Friday, Saturday, by the way. I didn't mention that, but we do have more, and that just supports the communication energy of all the Mercury stuff that's happening on Friday and Saturday. So communication was a little easier when Moon was in Mercury. Moon in Cancer in the evening hours on Sunday just means that we're going to come back into that like place that we want to reflect our emotions, and we want to kind of be cozier and stay closer to home. And then we also have the Hanged One as our card. So I think that it's going to be like the beginning of the week is kind of like work on stuff in secret, hold off on letting the world see it. And then it's like, boom, Friday, Saturday, we like let the world in on what we've been working on. And then Sunday, after we've done this like healing on the fears that are coming up with us on Saturday, we kind of go within. Be patient is basically the card for the Hang One. It's like shift your perspective on something while you take a pause in action. So it feels good. It feels like there may be some emotions that come up around the fact that like you put this thing out in the world and you immediately want everything to change. And Sunday, you might have to kind of sit with stuff of like, oh, my entire life didn't transform in 48 hours. And there might be some things that come up because of that. But like logically, we don't want our entire life to change in 48 hours. That would be too much. So trust that it is going to take time to harvest the fruits of this labor. But that's part of the appeal, because you have eclipse season, I feel like, is going to be about like bursting forward and then like getting calm, and then bursting forward again and then getting calm and restoring ourselves. And we're going to need the moments of restoration when things aren't happening, so that when the energy wants to burst forward again, we have the energy to go with that. I love this for us. I'm very excited for this energy. I'm going to need a nap after this reading, but I'm very excited for this energy. And my energy that I spoke to is a very good example of this. As of the time that I'm feeling this on Sunday, the 7th, I'm very much in this let's go within, let's be quiet, let's take a nap, let's be still. And we're going to move into this week with more of that momentum forward. And by Friday, Saturday, I will have built to hopefully the energy that I need to present this new version of myself to the world, as will you. So this is the point in the reading where I do a personalized reading drawing. So if you're new here, if you're not watching this on Substack, first of all, you might want to watch it over on Substack. So there's a link for that below. Or if you're watching this on Instagram, there's a link in my bio. But there's definitely a time period that I want to give back to the audience that has become either a paid subscriber on Substack or has sent me a one-time tip throughout the week of $1 or more on Venmo or PayPal. Those links are always below on Substack as well. And I like to give a thank you verbally to everyone that does that support. But then I also like to give an opportunity for a little something extra, which is why I do a random drawing of a name and I do a personalized reading of past, present, future for that person. So the rule is that if you won the previous week's drawing, you do not get entered into this week's drawing. But I always start by thanking the person that won last week's drawing, because especially if they are a paid subscriber, because they're still a paid subscriber. So Jane, thank you for being a paid subscriber. I also want to thank my other paid subscribers for supporting this endeavor: Tracy, Holly, Francis, Amanda, Sonia, and Caitlin. And we're going to spin the wheel and find out who wins the personalized reading. If you have watched this far and you feel called to stick around, there might be a message in this individual's reading that's also for you, because sometimes we're going through similar threads of energy. So our winner this week is Holly. So, Holly, you have won our personalized reading drawing, and I'm going to actually go for, you know what? I'm feeling called to give you all goddess reading. So, if you aren't familiar, I know Holly is familiar, but for those that don't know that are still watching, I created a 90s themed goddess deck. The first edition still has 3 copies available on my website, and it comes with a coloring guidebook. So if these cards interest you, there's very few copies left in existence for you to order. So you want to go over and get that. I have a prototype for a second edition that I use for these readings that I don't honestly know when is going to be available to the public. So again, if you like the 90s and you like working with goddesses in a way that feels a little more colorful and modern than some of the other decks out there, go get the first edition, because this may never exist other than right here in my hands. If you do know someone in publishing, I am open to finding someone in publishing that wants to publish this deck. But we are doing a past, present, future reading for Holly, which I don't normally do an all oracle deck reading for past, present, futures. I usually reach for the tarot cards, but I'm really feeling pulled to some goddess energy. So we need a little extra divine feminine support for whatever Holly's reading is about. I'm going to shuffle up the cards, and we're going to do a past, present, future. And I'm also going to set the intention. All the cards that come out for past, present, future are also still going to be divine energies that are sticking around for Holly. So like their presence is still around, but the meaning of the card is going to be for different stages of life. So I think I just bumped the microphone. Sorry if that was loud. Okay, we got it. Ooh, already loving the past card. The past card is one that's not available in the first edition. It's only in the second edition, but we'll get to that in a second. Present. Oh, we're going to keep that upside down, actually. I think she was supposed to come through upside down. And future. Okay, let me drop card. Let me get that off the floor. Okay, so Holly and anyone else who feels called to listen to this reading, your recent past card feels very appropriate for the energy that we're moving into Friday, Saturday. It is Veritas, played by Pamela Anderson, who's having a bit of a renaissance that was just beginning when I created this card. So lovely to see her more prominently in the public eye again. But 90s Pamela Anderson is the goddess of truth. I mean, and honestly, current Pamela Anderson is the goddess of truth, because there's very much an energy of wanting to have a relationship with the truth that becomes more and more authentic over time. If you are not familiar with Pamela Anderson's current sort of storyline, she's showing up on the red carpet wearing very little to no makeup. She's being very forthcoming with being exactly who she is, and growing into a stage of her life that she doesn't feel like she needs to kind of play a character or play a role like she might have did in the past. And this is kind of an energy of like the recent past for Holly. There was an element of maybe feeling like you need to put on a costume or a role or a persona to be perceived in the way that you were supposed to, maybe at work, maybe in relationships, whatever it is. There's this feeling of like presenting this idea of being what the world wanted you to be, and maybe not actually taking the time to evaluate what it is that you wanted, because that's kind of Pam's storyline. Like, she's only recently realizing she doesn't want to wear a lot. Like, she was performing before because she felt shy and she needed to hide behind a bunch of makeup and a bunch of facade. And now she's feeling like she's coming into a more authentic stage of herself, and honestly discovering stuff of herself that I don't even think that she's fully evaluated everything. Like, she's going to be on a path of like a decade of discovery after all this time of being what other people wanted her to be or what she thought the world wanted her to be. So there is this recent past energy of that affecting this storyline. We're moving into this beautiful stage that's kind of the opposite of that, but it's turned inward, because our present card is Persephone, played by 90s Winona Ryder, but it was reversed. So what I'm getting from this, the story of the mythology of Persephone is a goddess that was abducted by the god Hades and taken to the underworld. And it's a longer story. It ties the reason that we supposedly have seasons, because her mother had, a very hard time with her absence. The point being is that the deal that was struck at the end of the day is that Persephone would spend half the year in the underworld with Hades and half the year in the land of the gods or on Earth with her mother. And that's why we had this duality of like fall and winter. Things are kind of more dark and cold, and spring and summer, things are more bright and light. But Persephone is so much more than just the storyline, because she also is she's the queen of the underworld, but then she also exists in the real world. And so she kind of embodies this sort of like dog, wolf, Lilith, Venus energy within herself, because she can exist in two different planes. She's accepted both in the underworld and in the above. And that is kind of this combination of the two energies. And with it reversed, I feel like you're currently in the present moment going through this period of evaluating this shadow side, evaluating the Lilith side, and letting yourself kind of go within and ask yourself, if you didn't have to please anyone, who would you be? What would you be doing? How would you be presenting yourself to the world if no one else's opinions were placed upon you? No lovers, no family, no outside world. What do you want? Because that's what this evaluation is about. If you could not offend anyone with your actions or your desires, what desires would come forward that maybe you haven't even tapped into since you were a child? So that's what's happening in this present moment during this eclipse season. So I think this is not just this week, but the next couple weeks as we're in this eclipse portal. And the great thing about it is the more that you embody the darker side, the cooler you get to the people that matter. So this is very sort of like goth Winona Ryder, like post Johnny Depp engagement type energy. Dark hair, red lipstick. And that doesn't mean that that's going to be your aesthetic by no means, but it's very much like coming into your own. And it is kind of, and her storyline I mean, not that I want to project and know what was going on within her, but I just recently read a quote that was talking about how she was like pure as a driven snow before she met Johnny Depp, and he was her first everything. And through that, she kind of came into this more sensual image and this darker hair and this red lipstick and this, like she went from being like a scrappy tomboy teen to being who we think of for 90s Winona Ryder. And I think that there's this element of transforming from the girl, even though age-wise you might not consider yourself a girl, there's still this element of like this girl who wants to please everyone that's living within you. And there's got to be a catalyst for you to come to the other side and accept this part of yourself that maybe isn't going to please everyone, but ultimately is going to please you in the end. So that's the present. The future is coming in with a reversed Ixchel. I may be saying that wrong. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. I'm a reader, not a speaker. And this is played by Salma Hayek in From Dusk Till Dawn. So she's like this sexy, seductress vampire. So this definitely feels like there's a bit of an arc into sort of like a sensual energy that you've been maybe denying letting coming forward in a way that could be seen. And that looks different for everyone. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like get on stage in this outfit and dance with a snake like this character does. But there's a feeling of, again, going from the metaphorical girlhood of trying to please everyone into pleasing just yourself and embodying this wilder energy of sort of the Lilith wolf within, and letting that be okay. And also there's a message behind this that feels like it could seem a little dangerous to those around you. Take that however it resonates. But then again, this is still kind of an internal reflection on these energies. So I don't think Persephone and Ixchel are ready to come out just yet. Maybe on the other side of the eclipse portal, maybe at the other eclipses that happen in the spring. But you're on a journey of like the next couple weeks to 6 months of asking yourself, what does the wolf within you want? And how does the wolf within you behave? And who are you outside of everyone else's expectations? Let me just peek who's under the deck here for one final bit. Love it. Underneath the deck, we have the only card in this deck that is looking worse for the wear because Harley got into it when she was just a kitten. Aradia, played by another dark 90s character, Rose McGowan in Jawbreaker. And the message of her, she's the goddess of witches. So maybe this arc of not being such a good girl is embodying a little more of your witchy magical self. But she's also the goddess of supporting of making the oppressed be seen. So this could definitely be activism that's coming forward. Could be a little bit of both, a little bit of magic and a little bit of activism that's coming forward. I'm kidding. This is very appropriate for you, but I'm getting Miss Americana, Taylor Swift being politically active vibes coming forward of like that whole arc of, actually, that'd be a great thing to rewatch during this time period. Like it feels like you're going through a similar arc of like wanting to please everyone, going through a sort of reputation type era right now of like not pleasing everyone, but then also still having to come out the other side of things being like, okay, well, what am I going to use with this energy that I've now found that I don't have to please the world? Who am I going to speak up for if that's the case? All right. I hope that reading served you, Holly, and anyone else who watched. Again, honor the ebbs and flows of this eclipse portal that we're in. And if you are a paid subscriber, or if you want to become a paid subscriber and you want me to give you sort of like a post on like how to help survive this eclipse season energy, drop a comment, a like, whatever below. And if you're not a paid subscriber and that sounds good to you, definitely become a paid subscriber, because that'll be dropping during this portal period when it feels intuitively appropriate and I've gathered the resources I feel you need. All right. Have a lovely rest of your week. I'm going to go take a nap.